What's up? In today's video, I'd love to share with you a great gambit that works well against black playing pawn e5 on the first move, and it works extremely well on the level below 1800. So if you're on that level, that's gonna work tremendously well for you. I'm Grandmaster Igor Smirnov, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so initially we'll play standard moves, knight to f3, attacking this pawn, black defends this, then we go bishop to c4. Your opponents will usually play bishop c5 or knight f6 first, that usually doesn't matter. Then you castle kingside, and after knight to f6, here is the moment of truth. Instead of any normal move, like to c3 or d3 or whatever, you play the gambit move pawn to d4. And of course, that's move that your opponent expects the least probably, because you're actually gambiting this pawn on d4 and black can capture it however they like. But in fact, out of these three possible captures, one loses instantaneously, the other one is extremely dangerous, and if black doesn't know what they're doing, they can get in trouble in all three of them. Okay, so why did we wait for black to develop a few minor pieces before we made this breakthrough in the center of the board with the move pawn d4? Well, because now it's a lot more effective. Now with the move pawn d4, we're attacking the bishop, we're attacking the pawn. The black really has to do something about that. And if they capture with their pawn from e5, which is the most natural and the most played move, then you can push your pawn forward, chasing this knight away. So that's another extra tempo that you gain for your attack. And these lines can be extremely unpleasant and annoying for black. Just think about this. Where would black move this knight? I mean, they cannot move it to the center of the board because your bishop is ready to capture it there. What else can black do? I mean, they do not really want to bring it all the way back to g8. It's just completely passive and bad. Generally speaking, classical chess books tell you that you gotta centralize your pieces, but following this advice in this case is completely wrong, because knight e4 actually puts this knight in a position where it has nowhere to go. And if you just attack the knight, you're going to capture it. There is no way for black to defend it, because notice that your bishop as well as the knight control the square on g5, so it cannot go there, so you just pick up this knight there. So knight e4 is already the first trap. Knight g4 is actually a more common move for black. That falls for the other trick. Here we've got this bishop takes f7 little combo. It's not even a sacrifice, because after king takes, we follow up with knight to g5 check to the king, and this is a discovered attack of this knight on g4. And after black moves their king somewhere, trying to hide it to safety, we get our piece back. And here, I mean, you can see that although we didn't checkmate black's king right away, but of course it is deadly exposed, which gives you a lot of attacking potential, and especially in blitz, it's very difficult for black to defend this position. Just to give you an idea, the most played move here in this position is knight takes e5, which is already wrong, and now after queen e4, your queen is ready to shift here to d5. We're attacking the knight along the way, but we're also ready to play queen d5 and attack the king, and it is just deadly. For example, d6 is the most played move. Now you do play queen d5 anyway, attacking the king has to go, and now you would love to play queen to f7 checkmate, but the only problem is currently this knight from e5 guards the square. So we play pawn f4 first, chase this knight away, and then deliver something like the scholar's checkmate. It is actually quite funny that in most cases black tries playing c6 here, hoping that your queen is going to go back, but you don't need to, because pawn takes c5 is actually a very beautiful counter blow. It is a discovered check to the king, and on the next move you do deliver that scholar's checkmate, kind of scholar's checkmate anyway. If you face a more advanced level opponent, he or she may play the pro move pawn to d5. This is usually a smart reaction of black to white trying to get this quick attack against black. Black is trying to get some counterplay and more freedom for their pieces. So white attacks this knight, black attacks this bishop. What do you do in that case? Well, you still have a lot of attacking options here. You do grab the knight, and after pawn takes, you can see that black's king is exposed, which gives you a number of attacking options here. But first of all, we just take this bishop, this pawn on g7, attacking the rook. The rook has to go, and then you just keep attacking. So you play rook e1, attacking this exposed king. Black has to cover it. Now we keep playing attacking moves. You do bring your bishop out to g5, combining development with attack of this queen on d8. And in this position, the most played move by black is actually a deadly error, but it's certainly not easy for black to figure it out during a real life game. They usually play queen d5, which seems to make perfect sense. Black centralizes, they keep their pieces closer to each other, which feels safe at first, but you actually defeat black by playing a spectacular move knight to c3, which attacks this queen, brings your knight into action, and black cannot really capture it. For queen takes d5 would just win the bishop because of this pin. Black cannot recapture, so that's how you defeat black and outsmart black. And if they don't capture your knight, they have to move their queen away, and as they do so, you can now centralize your knight on e4, once again generating a number of different threats across multiple directions. The very first one is knight to f6, which is going to be a check to the king and attack of this rook on g8. You also put pressure to this bishop and all around, frankly. And if rook takes g7, which is the most played move, then you have an evil move knight to h4, and it turns out that black is going to lose their queen wherever it goes. Because now we're threatening to simply capture it, and if black moves it, doesn't really matter, queen g4, queen e5, queen d5, whatever, there is knight f6, the same move that attacks the queen and just wins it anyway. So that's how you win the game really nicely in this variation. Now, there could be a couple of other options that black may try. I can't go too much in depth because it takes time, so if you're interested in this particular variation, I've got another video where I analyze some other sidelines of black. Alright, now let's move on to the second option of black. After you play bishop c4, most of your opponents will play bishop to c5. And by the way, if some of them will play knight to f6, the two knights game, I've got another video where I share with you how you can transpose it into the way you want and how the world's number 5 player was defeated with that trick. So you can check this out later. But for now, let's stick to our stuff, bishop to c5. And you castle kingside. After black brings their knight out, you break through in the center of the board with the move pawn to d4. We just covered pawn takes d4, which enables your central pawn to be pushed forward and to start attacking this knight, which usually creates this quick and quite powerful attack. Now, what else can black do? The other option would be to capture here on d4 with their own knight from c6, which is actually a losing error, which is nice for you. Now, instead of taking here, it's certainly a lot better for white to just grab this pawn on e5. So first of all, you don't sacrifice anything here, right? It was just an exchange of pawns. Black took one pawn and you took one pawn. But on top of that, you're now generating threat to this pawn on f7. Black has to guard it, and after that, they lose due to their hanging pieces in the middle of the board. And with bishop e3, you target both of them, and black actually goes down and they cannot defend it. For example, if they try knight e6, trying to at least maintain the guard of this bishop, you don't take that, you instead take the knight, so that if black recaptures, they lose this bishop over here, and you will be a piece up. And if black tries to be smart and capture here, then since you're going to lose this bishop anyway, you say, hey, I'm going to get a better price for my bishop. So you take it here on f7, and you want to, gain some more material for this desperate bishop. And after rook takes and knight takes, now we hit the queen along the way, king takes, and now we finally recapture their bishop on e3. That's the end of the story, and you can see that we are currently up material. We won the exchange, plus their king is exposed, maybe e5 is coming, rook is active along the f file, and all in all, that should be completely winning for white. The most stubborn try of black is capturing here on d4 with their bishop on d4, but if you know what to do next, there's going to be a lot of fun for us. So first we trade here, because this bishop is strong, we want to eliminate this, and after knight takes d4, yes, black won a pawn, but we go bishop g5, putting this unpleasant pin on black, and on the next move, our plan is to play pawn to f4, which is going to shake black's position overall, because, that's going to attack this pawn on e5. So is the knight on d4, which is pressured by your queen. Our bishop is going to be active along this diagonal. Your rook is going to start being active along this diagonal as well. And you can see that black is going to be quite in trouble if they don't find something really, really strong right now. In most cases, they play pawn h6, trying to get rid of this annoying pin, but you just play bishop h4, and you're still threatening pawn to f4 on the next move just as well. Usually they go pawn g5, hoping that it's going to lock down the position and finally push this bishop back, but that's the moment of truth, that's the moment of your triumph. I really wish you got this position once in your games, because it's a lot of fun here to play pawn to f4. This is kind of a Tal move where you sacrifice material to break open the center of the board and to checkmate black, and it is indeed very beautiful. Now, black can capture here in many different ways, but they all are quite equally bad, to be honest. So what can they do? If they take your bishop over here, now you're going to recapture the pawn, and now you attack really a lot. You attack this knight, you attack this knight, you also attack along the f-file. So for instance, this pawn on f7 is also vulnerable to your attack, and black is just collapsing here. So that's really pretty bad for black. If they take here on a4 by this pawn, that's pretty bad, because, that hands the knight on d4. And finally, if they capture here with the g-pawn, which seems to be the best option to trying to keep the position closed, you still break open it with the rook sack, rook takes f4, and that's another really cool move here. Now black has to take it, and now you still capture this knight on d4, and although you are down in material a little bit, but just look at this. So your queen is pinning the knight along this diagonal. Your bishop is pinning the knight along this diagonal. So black really cannot defend it anymore. And on the next move, you're going to take it with your bishop. From here, it's going to attack the queen, attack the rook. You're going to pick up even more material. Plus, black's king is still deadly vulnerable, and that's easily winning for you. Now, you may be wondering, Igor, there must be some good way for black, right? It can't be all that bad. And you're right. Of course, there must be a good way, and there is. If you came across like some really well-prepared and strong opponent, instead of trying to chase this bishop away, which, as we saw, didn't really work, black will just play pawn d6 as the most solid way possible, trying to bring their bishop out and develop that way. But even in this case, you still have a nice initiative overall. You play the same move pawn f4, which you were intending to play anyway, getting your rook involved into the game along the f-file. Black is going to play bishop to e6, trying to trade off some pieces. And here, the very key move that you got to remember is that you do not want to take there on e6. That will help black to release some of the pressure. But instead, you want to defend this bishop by playing knight to a3. Now, why is it that you're moving your knight to the side of the board? Well, we want to keep our queen active along these files so that we keep pressuring the knight. But at the same time, we want to defend this bishop so that if black ever trades there, our knight is getting closer to the center. From there, it's going to pressure this pawn on e5, and your attack keeps going. For that reason, taking there is actually bad for black. It rather helps you to centralize your knight. So black should play something like queen e7, just trying to hopefully castle queenside. But there is a way for you to stop that. You can first trade here on e5 so that your rook gets active along this f-file, and then you play pawn to c3, getting this knight away from the center of the board. And an additional great benefit that you achieved is that now your queen cuts off black's king, so it cannot castle anymore because it cannot go through the attack square. And right now, what I recommend is playing a simple prophylactic move, king to h1, so that you don't have to worry about any potential checks of black and you don't blunder anything. So just play king h1. And currently black is a pawn up, but their problem is their king. They cannot castle queenside because your queen controls that line. Similarly, they do not really want to castle kingside because your bishop here is doing a great job pinning the knight. At any moment you want, you can take here on f6 and force black to recapture by the pawn, which will deadly expose their kingside. And since their king is overall somewhat vulnerable, that gives you a lot of attacking chances and a lot of compensation for just a little pawn that you sacrificed. Objectively speaking, the position is balanced, it's about equal, but I find it easier to play it as white in a blitz game. So even if you encounter a really strong and well-prepared opponent, you can still feel confident playing this opening, which I think is called Deutz Gambit or something like that, but it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is for you to win, and then you call it the Gambit of your triumph, or however you like it. If you want to know some other complementary lines that I haven't covered in this video, I've got this video which may answer some questions that you may have about this opening. And if you want to know some secrets to become a strong attacking player overall, then I've got this free masterclass where you can learn them. Hope that you enjoyed this video, have a great rest of the day, and I'll talk to you soon.